Welcome into CBS Sports HQ and happy Friday. I'm Jordan Giorgio. We begin in the NFL where Miami Dolphins quarterback Tua Tagovailoa's status is the Dolphins' biggest concern right now after he missed last week's win over the Cleveland Browns. It's been unclear whether or not he will play against the Jets this weekend, but earlier today, head coach Mike McDaniel spoke to the media and gave an update, saying that Tua is, quote, very unlikely to play this upcoming weekend in the season finale, week 18, as the Miami Dolphins take on the New York Jets. For more on this, let's go ahead and say hello to our NFL analyst. It's Bryant McFadden. B-Mac, it is great to see you. This is just such a bummer. It's starting to be a consistent theme for Tua Tagovailoa. He's been out the majority of the season. Now he's not playing in the most important game of the year. You know, we know they paid him big last season to be the future of this franchise. Just your thoughts on how all of this has played out for both Tua and the Dolphins.
Well, it's very, very disappointing, Jordan, because their playoff hopes is still alive. When you look at what happened this past weekend in the NFL, with Cincinnati beating Denver, with the Indianapolis Colts losing to the New York Giants, and Miami beating Cleveland, they go into the final week of this season, most importantly, Jordan, needing to win, needing to beat the New York Jets, but they will need some outside help. But mathematically speaking, they still have a shot to get into the playoffs. And now hearing their franchise quarterback once again will not participate, it's almost like they're waving the white flag without waving the white flag. Now, personally, I don't know exactly the extent of the injury in terms of pain or, you know, making this injury worse, but one would think he would try to go. And like I said, I'm not a doctor. I'm just talking about the significance of this game, because sitting him last week against Cleveland and still not knowing your status, that made sense. But then when you beat Cleveland, and then when you look at everything else that you needed to help you keep your playoff hopes alive going into the final week actually happened, then you might have said, you know what, there's a chance. We don't know. Or either just play coy with the New York Jets, because we've seen that with teams. They kind of keep everything on the hush in terms of, you know, major players to their team until the final day, and then they release the status of that said player. So me personally, I'm a bit surprised, but like I said, personally, in terms of the extent and how severe this injury is and could be, you know, I guess they're making the best case, the best possible move for the player and for their chances to win against the Jets.
Yeah, and I don't think you're alone in that, B-Mac, the only one surprised here. And it really does make you think the significance of this injury moving forward. Worth noting, Mike McDaniel did confirm it's Tyler Huntley time once again for the second straight week this week and against the Jets. All right, you know, Tua not playing this weekend because his injury. Elsewhere around the league, Eagles running back Saquon Barkley will be out this week, but for rest purposes. As we know, he's on the verge of breaking the NFL single season rushing record. We know he wanted to play and break that record, B-Mac, but ultimately he left this decision up to the Eagles, and they chose to rest him. You know, Barkley trusts his team fully, but B-Mac, you played. Take us inside the mind of a player, and just how bummed out is he for missing out on this potential record-breaking weekend?
I mean, selfishly speaking, I want to see him play, because I want to see him break the record. I think the same can be said for most NFL fans. And to your question, if I was a part of the Eagles, no question, you want to be a part of history, right? For the offensive linemen that have blocked for Saquon Barkley the entire season, think about that legacy that you would be a part of. Because ED has had this record for such a long time, Eric Dickerson. And it stood the test because it's very, very hard to do. So for Saquon Barkley to be right there on the cusp of breaking this record, and now hearing that he won't even get a shot, no question, it's disappointing. But for the greater good of the team, this is the right decision, I believe, for the head coach and Coach Nick Sirianni. Because you don't have any leg in this game. This game means nothing to you. And if you really wanted Saquon Barkley to break this record, I felt like removing him from last week's ball game early in the fourth quarter was the wrong thing. Keep him in the flow of the game, because who knows, he probably could have broke off another long one, and now he goes into this final week, only needing 10 to 15 or 20 yards to break the record. But when they removed him, when he surpassed 2,000 yards last week with still time left on the clock, that was the telling sign for me that they're not trying to get him to break this record. But in terms of what I said for the greater good of the team, just think about this, Jordan. Hypothetically speaking, if Nick Sirianni decided to dress and play Saquon Barkley, if he decided to dress and play his offensive lineman, because if Saquon was going to play, you better believe the starters, the major experienced players on the offensive line would be blocking for him. And let's say something happened to Lane Johnson. Let's say something happened to Landon Dickerson. Let's say something happened to Saquon Barkley. He rolled the ankle or he got a knee contusion. Now he goes into week 1 of the playoffs 40 or 50%. Just think about the backlash that Nick Sirianni would receive, right? Because now we would probably applaud him if he said Saquon is playing. We're like, yeah, he get a chance, coach. That's what you're supposed to do. Yeah. Back your players. And then he gets injured Sunday. What are you doing, coach? Why did you do that? Just imagine talk radio there in Philadelphia. He's already been overly criticized anyway. And all they did has, achieve the number 2 seed. Just think about the backlash that he received. So for Nick Sirianni, selfishly, we want to see it, but for the greater good of the team, this was the right decision.
Yeah, no, it's a good point to raise, but selfish. It's okay to be selfish once in a while, so I'm glad you brought that up. So Barkley will end his season with 2,005 rushing yards, 101, just 101 shy of breaking Eric Dickerson's 40-year-old record. Also worth mentioning here that Nick Sirianni did just speak to the media and said that Jalen Hurts is progressing in concussion protocol, but regardless, we will not see him this upcoming weekend. Let's go ahead and get to the NFC North here, where we have a big one between the Vikings and the Lions. NFC North title on the line this weekend. The winner of this game will earn the number 1 seed and get a bye into the divisional round, while the loser will have a road playoff game in the wild card round. And this format, B-Mac, is not sitting well with Lions wideout Amon-Ra St. Brown. Take a listen to this.
I mean, I think the rules should be changed. I think, obviously, if you win a division, you should obviously make a playoff spot, but having a 14-win team, having to go on the road is kind of crazy, but I guess, I don't make the rules, so hopefully we can get a win and get home field advantage, but whatever happens, we both have a spot in the playoffs, so we might see each other again after this game.
St. Brown doesn't make the rules, but he's allowed to have an opinion. Forcing a 14-win team to a road game is, quote, crazy, Amon-Ra St. Brown just said. But B-Mac, do you agree with him here?
I see his point, but I don't agree with St. Brown. And here's why, Jordan. This has been in place, it seems like forever, right? When we go into regular season play, we already know as a team, as individuals, what we need to do to most importantly get into the playoffs and what we need to do to have a home playoff game. That is win your division. Now, when you look at the divisions in the National Football League over the last few years, there's always been one mediocre division that gets an opportunity to have a home playoff game. Heck, we said the same thing about the NFC South last year in terms of how mediocre that division was. And Tampa won that division, and they had a home playoff game, and they made it to the second round. And they actually lost to the Lions by 1 possession. So I understand it seems a bit unfair because when you look at the narrative in some divisions in the National Football League, some divisions are overly competitive, some divisions are pretty much watered down. But you know what you have to do. And to his concerns and to his, argument, all of that means nothing if you just go out and win Sunday, right? All of that means nothing. Because you know what you need to do to be able to get at least one home playoff game or to have the entire playoffs come through your crib, right? So I get his gripe. I understand his gripe, but I disagree because these rules have been in place, seems like forever, and every year you know exactly what you need to do. So if you don't want to have any issues or any gripes or any, complaints, just go out and do what you're supposed to do. So you control your destiny just like the Vikings does. The winner of this team will have the top seed in the NFC, first round bye. The loser of this ball game will be on the road week 1 in the playoffs. Plain and simple.
All right, B-Mac, we will leave it there. Hang tight, though. More from you on the other side of this. You can watch Week 18 of the NFL season. It's here. Man, it did it fly by, but something tells me the fun is just beginning. You can watch all these games in the 1 o'clock and 4 o'clock hour on CBS or stream on Paramount+.